If I were to tell you that I was a cyborg, you might think that
I'm a cybernetic organism, living tissue over a metal endoskeleton.
Contemporary science fiction is saturated with images of cyborgs, creatures that are simultaneously man or animal and machine. Conventional portrayals may lead you to believe that cyborgs are psychotic death machines, intent on destroying all humans. Don't worry, this is not the case. A cyborg is a creature of social reality as well as of fiction. In fact, it is harder to argue that we aren't all cyborgs right now. A very troubled take is that they are more than human, often confused with androids, which are robots that appear to be human. Fundamentally, a lot of terms like machine or robot or cyborg or android can become quite indistinct. Cyborg is simply short for cybernetic organism. This term can be traced all the way back to the time of Plato, who used it in the context of governing systems. The term, having evolved, was then used in the 19th century to discuss control and communication systems inside mechanisms. Moving forward to the 20th century, the founder of cybernetics discipline, mathematician Norbert Wiener, defined cybernetics as the scientific study of control and communication in the animal and the machine. Jumping forward another decade or so to the 1960s, and the term cyborg, coined by Manfred Clynes and Nathan Klein, is now defined as essentially a man-machine system in which the control mechanisms of the human portion are modified externally by drugs or regulatory devices so that the being can live in some environment different than the normal one. Futurists have long speculated that we could use our technology to alter the course of human evolution. Manfred imagined engineering a new race of people for life in space with their bodies rewired, their hearts replaced by nuclear fuel cells and metal beneath the skin. But people have varying ideas regarding what technology is. Some might argue that glasses are a technology that can make you a cyborg. Many people have machines already inside them, such as pacemakers, or fillings in their teeth, or pins or plates in their bones or skull where they have been injured, but that does not necessarily make them a cyborg. As an example, a person with an ancient wooden peg leg would seem an absurd example of a cyborg. Thus, what we are talking about is not replacements, but instead alterations from the natural state. No dehumanization is intended as we are able to extend self-regulatory control. Our technological tools become our metaphorical exoskeletons. A cyborg blurs the boundary between nature and technology. Simply put, it's all on a continuum and we're just in the middle between the born and the made. A cyborg is not X or Z but Y. As Nietzsche used to say, man is a bridge and not an end. We are a means towards self-extension. As Donna Haraway writes in her Cyborg Manifesto, the cyborg is a thing that marries market technology and the body is a political battleground. Haraway outlines 3 different boundaries that are already breached between animal and human, organism and machine, and the physical and non-physical. She explores how in the duality and fractured yet fluid identities of the cyborg, societal boundaries are rejected. Therefore, the cyborg challenges postmodern epistemology. In doing so, the cyborg becomes intrinsically transgressive, in a way that could be regarded as similar to Mary Shelley's characterization of Frankenstein's monster as other. Through Frankenstein's description of his creation, it is established that while he possesses human features, he is still something other than human. The concept of the other is one that has intrigued man since the dawn of time. Whether it is a different culture or the opposite sex, it is simply the contrast between what is us and what is different, and raises questions surrounding existence, identity, and the structure of everyday life. Moreover, by existing outside of the normative social body, cyborgs represent social manifestations of identity expanding, human-environment couplings rather than mostly illustrating simple human-machine hybridization. Haraway describes the cyborg as an energetic entity that we can see but cannot touch, one that defies heteronormativity. The socially constructed category of maleness has long been considered by feminist theorists to be the default or neutral gender, and so by rejecting societal boundaries, as previously mentioned, cyborgs disrupt the so-called straight taxonomy of identity, sexuality, and gender. In being post-gender, the cyborg makes it possible to construct and reconstruct your identity, sexuality, and gender as you please. Although this approach makes the cyborg harder to conceptualize, It allows Haraway to appropriate the imagined neutrality of the cyborg to theorize its effect on the female lived experience. Women have historically been labeled as naturally submissive, weak, often hysterical, and incapable of abstract thought. Aspiring young girls are told that it is in their nature to remain within their domestic sphere of being homemakers and mothers in lieu of pursuing a career. If all these things are natural, they're unchangeable. On the other hand, if women aren't natural but are constructed, like a cyborg, then, in conjunction with technology, they can be reconstructed and in Haraway's words, subvert command and control. Hence, cyborgs allow feminist theorists, such as Haraway, to reimagine a radical subjectivity that celebrates fluidity and mobility, a utopian world rendered gender-free by technology. The cyborg also exists at the origin for a plurality of linguistic axes. In order to achieve what Haraway calls the feminist dream of a common language, feminists must engage in a process of myth-making or cyborg writing which insists on noise and advocates pollution. As Alison Kaddick writes, the information revolution affords this possibility of writing in ways not previously available. She goes on to explain where bodies as such are contested entities, and with the flattening out of an earlier form of subjectivity, we are left with surfaces, all the better and easier to inscribe. This surface is perfect for achieving the kinds of radical cyborg connections which Haraway advocates to avoid further painful fragmentation among feminists. Some might argue that in this post-postmodern society, it is easy to believe that technology is able to provide a solution to all problems, and that by becoming cyborg, differences that are rooted in the body, such as gender that we have touched on, but also race and disability, will no longer be a basis for discrimination. This utopian futurist outlook might also explain why Haraway once claimed that she'd rather be a cyborg than a goddess. So what do you think? Do you think in a post-human and post-gender world where we, the cyborgs, are imagined but real, and then fleshed but electronic, can relinquish what Haraway claims was forced on us by the terrible historical experience of the contradictory social realities of patriarchy, colonialism and capitalism? Does cyborg equal unity?